Back to our phone lines. Claire, good morning.
Morning, Ian. How are you?
I'm good. Do you have a mortgage?
I just want to comment. Actually, I do have a mortgage. I want to comment on just something that was raised yesterday. I was listening to you.
Debt forgiveness and mortgages and loans and stuff.
That auctioneer was on talking about that property prices maybe slightly on the move up. And
Barry Smith was suggesting that he had evidence to say that in Cork there's been a slight gradual increase all the way since last February.
Yeah, but I just wanted to comment at the very end. You made the point of the human factor, that nobody is kind of discussing that, and you mentioned debt forgiveness. And fair play to you for mentioning the human factor, because it's just being spoken about as if the little boxes of the houses are commodities, but no one is realising that there are people behind all those mortgages and homes and families. And then you mentioned debt forgiveness, and I was just at a meeting one time and that word was used, debt forgiveness, and somebody in the group kind of said, we didn't do anything wrong.
No.
So we shouldn't be looking for debt forgiveness. It should be debt write down or debt write off.
Write off, yeah.
And it's a very important, language is so important to people, and it's that conditioning that we're being used to. I mean, even Enda Kenny came out and said that the first time the people are not responsible, and then the next interview we had, we were suddenly responsible for the whole state affairs of the country.
That was a load of waffle. The only thing I'd say to you, without wanting to overly cut across you, is do you think that anybody realised at the time when banks were offering them 12 times their salary?
That's the point.
Anybody ever think,
yes,
hang on a second, I can't repay this?
Yeah. See, this is we didn't do anything wrong with what I'm saying in the first place. The property bubble was created by the collusion of the Department of Finance and the banks. The reason that house prices go up is because of the cycle of credit. When there's credit available, it pushes up, so the supply and demand even is taken out of it.
You can say the same, actually, about any commodity that's needed. You could say that about a car.
Yes.
And you could say that about any type of leisure activity where there's a waiting list and membership. Isn't it true?
Supply and demand. To the banks, and there's a 30-year cycle, and unfortunately for you and I, those of us that are just over 50. We're up to being caught at the end of this 30-year cycle. And what I'm trying to say is...
How do you mean caught?
Because with negative equity, and if our homes aren't going to be worth... Everything was put into your home being worth so much, we were all considered millionaires on paper because our homes were worth X amount of money.
But just to
when that bubble was gone, we were all in the premise that our houses were worth more, so we might move up or we might move down, or we might sell out.
But you mightn't move it all. You
mightn't move it all.
Where you live, it doesn't matter how much the home that you live in costs or is worth. It's your home. So somebody says to you, I want to give you 10 million for it. Well, you know what I mean. It's worth 10 million. It's only worth that if you sell it. But
if you sell it, yeah.
It's like for instance, to be fair to people, say our age or even younger, the best part of your mortgage, if you got on the ladder early enough, is gone now. You should.
That's correct.
For instance, my home.
If you weren't put into the bubble situation where people released equity, this is the biggest crux. People released equity out of what they were told their homes were worth.
Now you're talking.
Now I'm talking.
Now you're talking different.
And I had Billy Kenner at my door telling me that my house was worth X amount and everything would be fine and the economy was going to grow by 3.5%, which wasn't enough, but we'd get out of it. And then suddenly it all went pear-shaped.
Yeah.
So that's the cycle I'm talking about, and I just want to... People don't ever really hear the word fractional reserve banking, but that's the way the banking system works. So the interest is never created. So it's like a game of musical chairs, and it's all fine when there's only one or two fall off, but the system is designed that way that people will fall off. But what has happened now is that there are thousands of people falling off the wheel, and nobody knows what to do. It's just happening that way.
But aren't there three categories? The first-time buyer who bought at the top of the market and it fell apart.
Yes.
The homeowner who was told that they had all sorts of equity on their home and they traded up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the speculator who bought and bought and bought and built up a portfolio of property thinking that there was going to be gravy all the way at the property market. Would you say they're the three categories?
I would say they're the three categories, definitely. And that's so the net worth, you mentioned one of theirs, the people who release equity, and that's why I'm talking about the people over 50 that might have released equity. Their net worth has been wiped out literally overnight because of the bubble coming down.
And they probably added savings to it as well.
yes, like it's just gone, and you're down on paper. If you ever work with an accountant, like they talk about your net worth should be worth, and it's all figures. So getting back to the human aspect of it, like nobody is coming up with any solutions. Like the government aren't coming up. I was at a meeting last night up in UCC. We're talking about the Constitution. And like this is where people need to get back to and start relearning it or realising, and they have people tied up watching the X Factor and doing things like that and not really thinking about what's going on. Like I heard you reading out there about 100 years of self-governance, and now we're back, we're destroyed again. But like we had a constitution that was written 75 years ago, that people's rights were enshrined, that we the people, our rights were enshrined, but like people don't even realise that it's not put out there to the communities, and people really start to need learning about that.
Well, give me examples then, for instance, if you've been studying the Constitution. I think the Constitution is
very recent.
I think it's defined.
Article 45.3. There's a thing about social policy.
Right.
Right, and there's a part in it I haven't got it.
No, I don't want it word for word. Just the gist.
But like there's one section in it that says like that the Constitution and the legislative and what's supposed to be protected are commodities, and that they shouldn't be put into certain hands of certain individuals to the detriment of the common good. So like if you talk about commodities so in other words oil, gas, all these things, they've all been sold away. Like that should have been brought up at some stage, or there could be a constitutional challenge. At that meeting last night they spoke about the Raymond Crotty, who brought up that in 25 years ago he stopped, he brought an injunction, and there had to be a referendum for, I really don't know enough about it because I was too busy rearing children that time, but I just remember it happening. So they're talking about really enshrining our rights properly in the Constitution. And there's just one other thing that I want to say before I go. It's just like nobody realises that the banks are paying out €1 billion to the bondholders on Monday, the 1st of October, and it's not being spoken about anywhere.
Only 1 billion?
That's just this month.
Oh, this
this month. And that, it's crazy, and it's being hidden from the people.
Well, you know that's happening all the time. It will ultimately be about 80-odd billion that will be paid. So they're paying it out in stage payments. This is the deal we signed up to. So if people don't know about it, then shame on them. They should know.
It's been hidden from the public, the amount of money that's being sent out of the country.
80 billion.
And all interest we're paying absolute. I mean, whoever heard of anyone getting another loan to pay off their credit card because there was a 20% interest on it, so you get another credit card with 40% interest rate. Who do we owe the money to? The world is in debt to a huge amount of money. Who is it in debt to? Private banks. And that's where people should start learning about fractional reserve banking. They should start looking at their constitution and realise that there's something amiss majorly, and our independence as people, independence as a country is being squandered and lost completely. And there's one other thing. Do you consider yourself an Irishman?
Yes.
You do?
I do, of course.
Oh, you're living in the country since you were born?
No, but I was talking
No, I know, right. You're living in the country more than 10 years.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so you would consider yourself an Indigenous Irish man?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, you are not, according to the government.
Explain.
There are no Indigenous people living in Ireland. There was a meeting in 2000, and it was signed off then in 2003, I think, or 2004, that now there are no more Indigenous people living in Ireland. And it's all around sustainability.
So what is it?
Only Indigenous people have rights. Only Indigenous. So you just go back to
an Aborigine in Australia, an American, Canadian, Indian.
They fought to get their rights back, and they're all living in reservations in America, and they're being given licenses for casinos and alcohol, and that they're kind of despised almost in their own country. But now they're trying to say that there are no Indigenous people in Ireland, so we don't have any rights on sustainability. And that's how our Indigenous industries were taken away from us, like sugar beet. And when you think of Longo, like the Murphy's Brewery, the hops, that smell that you get down by John Street, the distillery, the coopers, all those trades, the blacksmiths, they're all gone. they're all gone bad in the Hina dairies, and we were asleep, unfortunately, when all this was going on.
But what? Just a second. That sounds very romantic, but that's not altogether accurate, because we weren't asleep. It was an industrial revolution. It was technology moving.
It was technology.
You know, you think of the difference between now and, say, 80 years ago, and how fast technology has taken over. That's what that was.
You would imagine that when technology takes over, that we should be all living a wonderful life, though. Technology is supposed to improve people's lives and improve people's lives.
I never bought up to that. I always believed that technology and the quickness and the more modernization of systems would make people unemployed. You know? I mean, some say, oh yeah, you'll be able to sit back. People say you'll be able to sit back and do nothing. Well, what's so great about that?
No, but you might be in a position where you'd be able to do something that you love, or something that you like.
Like a man and woman's got to work.
They have to work, but they could be doing something much more pleasurable, and they might not have to work the amount of hours that people are talking that they need to work. Do you know that? And basically, like it's the machine that we're really all on, like this wheel that I'm talking about, and it's the private banking system is what has us in the situation that we're in, and that's where I'm going back to the first point, that debt forgiveness is the language that's being used is making us feel that we're responsible for all of what went wrong. And we're not. It should be debt write-down. The banks got debt write-downs, but they won't give the people who are behind all those little boxes, those little mortgages, there's no write-downs for anyone there.
What about it if all of that is happening, and I won't delay it because I know you're under pressure, what about all of the people who signed in and year after year after year paid into a private pension and all that got wiped out? Why aren't they being treated as the very same as the debt write-down that you're talking about for people who bought houses on loans? Where's the difference?
Why aren't they being?
Yeah. Why is the public sector being bailed out for pensions?
Got caught up as well in the system because they've invested into hedge funds and securities and derivatives, all these words that the bankers throw out at us, and they lost big time as well. That's another group. So maybe there's 4 groups of people.
Okay.
These pension groups did lose out. So just people are losing out all the time, and the corporations are the people that are winning.
Okay, my pleasure talking to you. I like the cut of your jib.
Can I say one other thing, actually, just to let you know that I'm part of a group. I have spoken to you before. We're called Awaken Ireland, and we have meetings every 2 weeks in the Imperial Hotel. It's an open forum on Ireland's future. It would be great if a few people
would come in and listen.
7 o'clock every second week on a Monday night in the Imperial Hotel.
Is there one on Monday?
There is.
Oh, I heard something about that yesterday. That's a gathering of like-minded people like you,
exactly,
who want to be heard and make a difference.
Exactly. We were in Dublin on Wednesday night. We're going to Galway. In the future, we had nearly 60 people in a room in Dublin, and you just wouldn't believe what was going on there, the amount of knowledge and the amount of sharing and the new views. We had people that were in the education system and had to drop out of it because they said, like, the education system is at the moment being used to gear children in to become corporate little soldiers. And this teacher, he had to leave because he said the children that are being born into the world are so creative now, and they're being suppressed by the education system.
And the point system.
Yes.
And
even in primary school, he said like that he was looking at small children. He said that these children shouldn't be in a classroom. They should be out playing, exploring, respected, validated, given the enthusiasm that they're giving him, but he's controlled by the systems. He has to go with the rules. Anyway, look.
Can I send somebody to your meeting on Monday night? Can I send somebody along with a recorder?
Well, I don't know about a recorder. Maybe you can. It would be great if somebody came and just listened. Yeah.
Okay. You have nothing to hide. Don't be afraid. Never be afraid of the truth.
No.
Tell the truth even if your voice shakes. So that's Monday night at the
Imperial Hotel.
At what time?
7 o'clock.
Okay. You're called Awaken Ireland. You wouldn't think of putting together a new political party. That's what I was hearing, that there's an organisation that's thinking of putting forward people.
We're just a movement. We're trying to gather people together to form some kind of like a council. I don't believe that political parties are the way to go because the party whip system, as we've just seen with Justine Shortall, she had to go because she wouldn't follow the whip. So the whip system.
Yes, but if you create a party that's anti-whip, then your party is anti-whip, so that's fine.
I don't know enough about it, but
a whip is a form of dictatorship.
Really, there should be a group of independents. But you see, even in the Constitution, the word political party start learning what our forefathers fought for.
Okay, forgive me. I'll come back to this next week. Forgive me. What time did you say Monday?
7 o'clock.
All right. Thanks, Claire. Cheers for now. Awaken Ireland. Monday night, 7 o'clock, Imperial Hotel. All welcome.